Shana mitzvot, Shana las, sok b'divrei Torah.
Sok b'divrei Torah. Here we are. Okay. What a beautiful sunny day in California today. It's lovely. It's lovely. So every Saturday after I leave our study, I go out for a walk. My grandson walks me, and I do my major walk. And last night at 1 o'clock in the morning, he texted me, Saba, don't cancel because of rain. We can do this. So I'm going to be out walking in the rain to prove I'm still a man. Right? Right? Yeah? I'm tough as they come. Okay. I would like to begin. There we go. I would like to begin by wishing a very happy Easter to those non-Jewish individuals who study with us and whom I don't necessarily see every week. So I am not responsible for the fact that it's going to rain on Easter, and I hope that those of you who observe it will have a beautiful day. The next calendar event is April 3rd, current events, right? Current events. And apparently the world is totally falling apart, so we should have something to talk about on April 3rd. Now, this is very important. April 22nd is Erev Pesach. April 22nd is the first evening of Passover. And as you know, that's when we have a long, exciting, and good Pesach Seder. I am now formally inviting anyone from this group on behalf of daughter Aviva to join in her Seder that evening. I have given her all of the email addresses for members of the Chevra Torah. Doesn't mean that everything I have is accurate, but I did give it to her, and she will be mailing everyone in Chevra Torah whom I gave accurate addresses for invitations to her Seder. It is a small gathering for those of you who have observed it in the past. She'll have about 50 people under a tent outside, warm and safe. So you are cordially invited. And yes, people ask, what if you have a friend who also would like to join the Seder? Yes, just respond to Aviva. Let Aviva know that you are available for Seder and would like to join her at her home, and you will be invited. Complete meal. I'm allowed to run very small parts of the Seder, and because it's her family, her house, whatever. So anyway, warm invitation, April 22nd to Aviva's Seder, to every member of this group and to your friends and family. Just please do RSVP to her. If you do not hear from her, it's because I screwed up the email address, and please send me a note. So give it a week and send me a note, and we will absolutely, definitely take care of that.
Can you tell us where she lives, Rabbi?
She lives in Mar Vista on Ocean View. It's easy to find, easy to do, unless you live in Denver. Nothing personal, but yeah, easy to do. Okay. We are getting, so Maya just joined, and Maya is pleased to welcome all of you to her family home for Seder. Okay.
Call from.
That you said something and I didn't think I heard it. Oh, okay. I would like to turn to page 682. Is that right? 682. I hope that's right. I put these things down late at night. Yes. Okay. Page 682. Now, on page 682, you get the Haftarah for last week. Oh my God, last week. And it is from Isaiah chapter 43 to 44. And I want to call this Haftarah to your attention because it is one of the most telling Haftarot in our order of events. What do I mean by telling? Let's pay attention. Isaiah begins, and remember, we're in Vayikra. What's the major thing going on in all of Vayikra? Sacrifices, right? All kinds of sacrifices. Now, here Isaiah. The people I formed for myself are meant to recount my praise. That means the Hebrew is Yisaper, tell the story of my praise. Yet you have not called upon me, O Jacob, or wearied yourself for me, O Israel. You brought me no sheep for burnt offerings, nor honored me with sacrifices. Verse 24, you have not spent your coin to give me sweet cane, nor sated me with the fat of your sacrifices, wearied me with your offenses. Now listen to this. I am the one who blots out your transgressions for my own sake. Key phrase, for my own sake. And your sins will I remember no more. It goes on. You answered, your ancestor did this, and so forth. Here is a clear statement that the bringing of sacrifices is not for any reason other than you're doing it. Why does God forgive sins? What is that phrase again? I am the one who blots out your transgressions because you bring sacrifices. Oh no, that's not what it says. I am the one who blots out your transgressions for my own sake. Now, if you don't think I remember your merits, help me remember. State your case and justify yourself. Wait, it doesn't say bring more sacrifices. What does it say? State your case. Communicate with me, says God, and I will forgive your sacrifices, not because you have 14 brownie points and an extra sacrifice, but for my own sake. Where is this Haftarah found? At the beginning of the book of Leviticus. What do you think? What's going on? Why did the rabbis choose to include this Haftarah with this Torah portion? And this is an introduction to today, so this is a backward step. Why, Eric?
Seems like God is removing the trash. He accidentally created trash when he created the world.
He created trash?
Yeah, when you have sometimes when you're cluttered with guilt and everything, that's called trash. You have to get rid of your guilt and your transgressions and start anew.
Thanks for the translation. Okay, I didn't quite get trash in the contemporary sense. Okay. What's
I'm
going
sorry, I did the best I can.
I like it. I learned what's going on between the Torah portion and the Haftarah that the rabbis selected. The rabbis intentionally selected. Steve.
I think it's to show the evolution and how our conduct matters a lot more than idle acts that really don't have much to do with how we treat one another or improve the world.
I like to say, when no one else is listening, that there is a dialogue going on between this Haftarah and this Torah portion. The Torah portion is really clear. You got to do the guilt of this offering, that offering, that offering, that offering. That's the way to open the door to God. And Isaiah says, I forgive because I choose to forgive. If you think I don't know good things that you've done, talk to me. It's a dialogue between text and Haftarah. And I think it is a beautiful example of what's going on. By the way, I put a little note in here. Please be careful when you quote Torah. Why? Because you may be quoting something which is either contradicted or discussed otherwise in other settings. So just because you read, bring the sacrifice, whoa, things evolve and change. Okay, Howard.
I think it's interesting that although Isaiah is used as so much as a proof text in Christianity, and yet what the Isaiah 43 is saying is really the opposite of the idea in Christianity. In Christianity, God forgives sin because of the sacrifice that was made of Jesus. And it doesn't have to do with whether you're a good Christian or not. It's just whether you accept that. And yet in Isaiah it says, no, God is really, although we had these sacrifices and they were important, forgiveness comes from, let's have a conversation about you and how you lived your life and so on.
Thank you, Howard. That's a very, very good comment. I want to put in a little bit of hesitancy here. It's again part of the problem with how traditional Jews and other religious communities use Isaiah. Isaiah is not one person. Okay? So if I don't remember the exact breakout, what is 1 to 39 or something like that, 1 to 40, is called First Isaiah. And then the scholars, all of whom I love, debate whether there's a second Isaiah, Deutero. I got to do Deutero so I can speak Greek. Deutero Isaiah, Trito Isaiah, and sometimes I'm pretending to be Isaiah. A few authors were melded together in a single book. So Howard, when you say how people use Isaiah, and well, it also depends which Isaiah. And you have to be so careful about making determinative statements. This is what Isaiah, which Isaiah? which Isaiah and what's the weight that this Isaiah carries. I will tell you that differences between Isaiah 1 and the other Isaiahs can be very stark. They're not just subtle differences. Okay, so I have Sukasa, then I have Mara.
I have a question. This is a really, was the Haftorah written at the same time as the Torah? Or when was the Haftorah written? I should know that, but I don't.
Okay, the Haftorah usually is written shortly before the bar mitzvah training begins.
No. You know what I mean.
Okay. The Haftorah is assigned centuries later. Tamara, give me. Now, first of all, the Haftarah, they're all quotes from the Bible. It's already there. They're selected and assigned. Tamara, give me a date.
Well, some of the Haftarah portions were written before the Torah, and some were written later. It depends which prophetic material is being used. So if it's Amos, it's probably earlier than the Torah was written. But when it comes to this section, this Haftarah could be more or less at the same time.
And when was the assignment made?
Oh, centuries, 7, 8, 9 centuries later.
That would work well. And so you're dealing with a bunch of things that get locked in the 9th and 10th century, including the formal assignment, the way the Torah is vocalized with the whatever else. So what you just heard was absolute heresy. And I was waiting for the, internet to crash. But that is what Tamara said is something which I absolutely believe.
So in other words, you're saying the Torah, was the Haftorah written after the Torah was codified?
What I'm saying is, what we're saying is that the Torah was written over a period of centuries.
Mm-hmm.
Centuries. We guesstimate that the Torah was finished time of Ezra, 5th century, BCE, around that time. You realize what we're saying is that the Torah was completed after the destruction of the first temple. Okay? In other words, that really is not acceptable according to, if you will, ultra-Orthodox norms. But if you have read Jacob Wright's book, W-R-I-G-H-T, which we reference constantly, it says how, when, why the Torah was actually written. And it's an outstanding... Tamara?
No, what I want to highlight is there's a huge time gap between when the material that's now called Haftarah was written and when it became what we call Haftarah.
Right. In other words, there's some passages that are earlier than the fixing of Torah. There are some passages which are contemporaneous with the fixing of Torah. There are things that come later. And the assignments are made for a whole variety of reasons. All that struck me, and the reason I went back a week for a moment, well, longer than a moment apparently, for a moment, is to note the dialogue, the conversation between the Haftarah and the Torah, and to understand that that is one of the growth plates of Judaism, that conversation. And what we're doing, and I am not exaggerating, what we are doing here is continuing that process. Okay? we're doing that. I'm sorry, Sue, did you get your?
I think so. What you're saying is that, okay, we have the Torah, it's written, and then we're reading this. I'm saying we early scholars, and they're saying, I don't like this. So let's put something in Isaiah that in a way it contradicts. As you say, it's a conversation. It kind of broadens the concept of sacrifice and what, is that what you're saying? I just want to
I am
confirm.
not saying that they put it in to contradict, and I'm in weak territory here. This is scholarship. I
Okay.
am not saying that they put it in to contradict, but
To expand.
yeah, more that.
Okay.
To expand, to clarify, but there are those within the Jewish community who don't see any expansion or clarification. They see it stasis. It is the way it's always been.
Mhm.
And we say, it ain't necessarily so, to quote Gershwin. Okay, Mara.
Thank you.
To go back to how you started the conversation, it seems to me that the two things we're looking at that appear to be in contradiction suggest that bring up for me the notion of faith versus reason, that here we're asked to struggle with the notion of just having faith. This is what God says. I'll forgive you no matter what you do. And in another place, we're told that you must do these things, period. And I think that's in some ways puts us in dangerous territory, that even if we don't do these things, God will forgive us.
I don't think it's saying that.
Okay. You've opened up a topic which, boy, I'd be glad to spend a week talking with you about. There are sins which are not forgivable. To say no matter what you do is not accurate. The rabbis particularly frown upon murder, adultery, and sexual offenses.
I agree.
I mean, that doesn't matter. Excuse me. The rabbis felt that way, and that was their thing. And there's certain sins, for example, if you go through the Gemara on this, that you can get started toward forgiveness in this lifetime, but only in the next world through other processes can you finally achieve a reconciliation. They're really bad stuff. So it's not that no matter what you do, you bring a sacrifice, or even if you pray or you change your behavior, God forgives you. At certain levels, that's not the way it works. Other things, it sort of works that way. One of the things that the rabbis, medieval philosophers, talk about a lot, if God has predetermined that you, Stanley Davids, are a sinner, and you pray or do deeds, good stuff, you will change God's intention. That's a very tricky notion in theology. How can an infinite, unchangeable God be changed by what we do?
Can I answer that?
I'm not going to go into that as a conversation, though I will assure you it is a big deal. It's a big deal. And so they go through issues of, well, God knows the end result, even though the initial intention presented this way, God knew you would repent and the forgiveness was already built in. It gets complicated.
Thank you,
So
Rabbi.
I don't believe certainly that during the Middle Ages that Jewish philosophers were willing to say, we can change God's mind. That's a heavy, heavy statement. But we have a role to play in dealing with our own sins, behaviors. Look, we all have this problem. It's the little thing. I order sushi. I order spiced tuna. I like spiced tuna, sometimes with avocado. I like that too. Then I bite into my spiced tuna with avocado, and I notice a very strange tail sticking up from my sushi. Okay? Now, I know tunas have tails, but it doesn't look like that. It's a shrimp. And I have unwittingly eaten a forbidden food. I didn't do it on purpose. I checked the menu, and I know this won't be a big shock to you. Sometimes menus lie, okay? And you get things that you didn't orally, you order a tempura, and I was looking forward to all kinds of veggies fried up and all kinds of, artery destroying materials. But some of the tempura comes out with those tails again. They're all over the place. And how do you get rid of that problem? That's a real thing. You insult somebody. How do you get rid? We deal with problems like that all of our lives. How do we readjust the ordinary, normal screw-ups that we do? And the sacrificial system offered some ways, but not totally. And it is and then those of us who don't believe in the sacrificial system, and those of us who don't believe that God is ready for us to atone in a certain way, we have to deal with guilt that we don't easily have a way to absolve. That's one of the disadvantages of not being able to run to the temple with a goat or a lamb or whatever. I'm going to move on, but it's a Mara, excuse me, I talked a lot. Push, did you get your question answered? No.
I got that question answered. I still think that the fact that there is a contradiction, an apparent contradiction, means that if we choose to try and solve this contradiction through reason, we are unable to do so. And therefore, the only way we can accept this contradiction is in pure faith.
And that's a beautiful statement. And again, well worth our conversation. But Mara, you know that there are certain mitzvot which are considered to be beyond reason. One of my favorite is what's in the old days we used to call linen woolsey. I don't know why. A mixture of linen and wool in the same garment is forbidden. And the rabbis say, turn this upside down, inside out. This doesn't make sense. That's okay. There are chukot, there are mishpatim, there are requirements that could be deduced rationally, and there are other things that we accept on faith. And you're right. And it's always been that way. And it wasn't Kierkegaard. Who said leap of faith? Invented the term. But yeah, definitely so. Donna?
Blaise Pascal.
What? Pascal? Okay. I'll accept Pascal. Pascal. I keep getting confused because I think he's Pasteur and I know he's not Pasteur. Okay, Donna?
I was just gonna say thank you for everything. Thanks, Becky, for the shrimp. I got to the luncheon in Malibu and everybody was there, and I wasn't going to go because they wouldn't impose. But I was just surprised everybody. I had to go to the bank and to my optometrist, and I just want to say hi to everybody and have a wonderful Shabbat.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, we are now at 9:36, going to begin this week's Torah portion. Okay, that was just an excursus into a really great example of the rabbis, the Bible in discussion with each other. And just to be aware that that really, really happened. Okay, so now I can thank you. Go into this week's Sedra, which is Tzav. And the rabbis, first of all, want us to understand that when Tzav begins on Leviticus 6:1, the Eternal One spoke to Moses saying, command Aaron and his sons. That's a very heavy statement right there. Tzav. The same word. What bigger word do we get that contains the word tzav?
Mitzvah.
Yes. Mitzvah. It's all part of the same root. Tzav, command, go. This is heavy, clear stuff. As a matter of fact, what happens in this Sedra is a clear statement of the order and the importance of certain sacrifices, why they exist and what we do. So we have, for example, the Olah, O-L-A-H. And by the way, you can check Google. It has interesting things to say. Olah is a total burnt offering. Okay? It's the way I would sometimes make a steak. By the time I'm done, it's charcoal. And you take this offering, you bring it, it is all consumed. What does God get out of this? Well, the rabbis say a sweet savor. Smells good. God likes barbecue. God apparently arose first in Tennessee. I'm not sure. So
You're funny, Stanley.
God likes barbecue as a sweet savor, which of course connects with ancient civilizations where they would portray the gods enjoying the sweet smell of the sacrifices the people bring. Okay, but Olah is a totally burnt offering. A mincha, M-I-N-C-H-A-H, a mincha. Mincha is mainly a meal offering. And it's brought as a gift to God, a mincha. God, you and I haven't been in touch recently. Here's some Cheerios or whatever. Give God an offering. Then you have chatat. chatat, a sin offering. I stole something. I want to be restored. So the chatat exists because, do you know the word, from Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, achet shachatanu lefanecha, for the chet, for the sin. Chatat is the same word, for the sin. And philologists a long time ago made hay out of the fact that chet means missing the mark. A chet is what a bow and arrow marksman has when they shoot the arrow and it hits somebody over here and he was shooting for a target. Oops! Missing the target. And the rabbis have a huge category of things that we people do wrong. Missing the mark. We didn't do what we should have done. It's a good, I like that description. Missing the mark. Chatat, a sin off. The asham is more like a civil court ruling. That is a guilt offering, which is like a prison sentence. What is it? Restitution, right? It is a prison sentence with restitution, but you don't go to prison. You bring this particular kind of sacrifice, and then you also have to pay back what you stole, what you broke, whatever. You have to do that. You have to, with the asham, make the other person whole. So it's not enough, oh, okay, I stole $10 million from you. I'm really sorry. Accept my apology. That's cute. Very nice. Accept my apology. Wait a second. I'm out $10 million here. And that requires restitution. And it's not just equivalent, it's restitution with a fine. Okay? Restitution with a fine. And the last one is my favorite. Oh, it's called shlamim. Shlamim. Do you hear a familiar word in shlamim? What do you hear, Donna?
Shalom or shalem, l'shalem.
Both and both. Shalom, it's like a peace offering. Shalem, it's making it whole. It's the same root. Shalem, shalom, the same root. Why do I like it? When you want to bring a peace offering, you are feeling good. Hey, things are good. Let's go up to the temple and bring a shalem on the appointed times. What happens with that sacrifice? Well, a little bit gets sacrificed. Oh, a little bit goes to the priest. And the rest of it is a family picnic. It really is. The people would sit around outside the temple, whatever, with this wonderful roast lamb, and they would have a picnic. So the shlamim is, don't regard every sacrifice as a burden. You come, God gets a little, the priests get a little, and the family gets a picnic. And they even have rules that you can't keep it overnight. If you're going to have a picnic, eat it now, eat it all, have a big group. So that's really nice. So that's what most of Tzav is about. but it's actually two things, which makes it really, really important. Aaron and the priests are given the exact details about how each sacrifice is to be handled. Then they are consecrated as priests. This is the transition, Cedra. This is when they are transitioned. They become formally priests, and the same Cedra is when the tabernacle becomes a working place. So you consecrate the priests, you consecrate the temple, you give the working book on what the sacrifices are all about, and then you have what's not quite clear, apparently a 7-day consecration of the tabernacle itself. We're not quite sure whether it was 7 days of consecration or that the tabernacle doesn't begin to work on the 8th day. What's the Hebrew word for 8? 8? 8 once? 8 twice? Risa, you said something? Shmona. And you might want to jump ahead because next week's Sedra is called Shmini. Something happens on the 8th day. And the rabbis are getting it all twisted in a knot, whether that was the last day of the consecration or the first day when it was really working. We'll work on that next time. Risa, you had a question or a statement.
I have a thing running around in my head, and I cannot exactly say it, but you're used to me doing that. Where does it say God doesn't want your sacrifice? He doesn't want, where is that?
Isaiah.
That's Isaiah also.
Yes.
So how do we put this all together? With a whole book about sacrifices, and Isaiah says, I'm not interested in your sacrifices.
Any other questions? The question really is, Risa, the dialogic nature of it, because the book, Torah, Bible, rabbinic literature is a big conversation. And the conversation is to move it forward off of the literal into where the community was at that time. So believe me, when the rabbis writing in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th centuries CE, after the second temple is destroyed, they're going to put a lot of emphasis on God doesn't really require sacrifices. God requires a circumcised heart, a change point of view, a way of operating. And that's fine. That's how Bible Torah stays alive. But look what they did. You're familiar with that passage because it's read on the High Holy Days, right? It's read on the High Holy Days. And it's pounded in. How did it get to be read on the High Holy Days? The rabbis put it there to trump the Torah readings that we are doing today. Yeah, you read about sacrifices. Really important. But let me tell you something. More important is how you approach God, how you live your life, how you treat other people. And when every once in a while, someone who is not of the Reform movement says that what we are doing is inauthentic. I love that word, inauthentic. Yeah, that's right. We started doing this 2,500 years ago. To me, that's authenticity. It's the way it's always been, but it also has always been denied. Does that make sense? No one is going to say that the literal Torah portion has been set aside, except it has tomorrow.
And I just want to add that it's really important to try to situate what's being said in the Bible at the particular historical time that it is said. So, for example, when people are in exile, you are not going to tell them you have to bring sacrifices. That's not going to help them. Or where the rabbis are living, there's no temple. So you choose different things from the repertoire to help the community survive and thrive at different situations. And so different parts of our DNA are being called or activated at different time. And that's what Isaiah, the book of Isaiah is doing, saying one thing to people who live on the land and have a temple, and says something else to people who are now in exile. And the rabbis continue this. You have to know what applies to what. It's not one size fits all the situation.
Thank you. And as always, Tamara, you use a phrase which captures me. The repertoire. The repertoire. And that's really what all of Jewish tradition is. It's a repertoire which we master and is proper, as I can't say it's proper, of course, what Tamara said was correct. What we do is derive from the repertoire that which speaks to us today. And that's authentic and living, and that's what we have. And I think that's grand. Ray?
Thank you. I have a question, really, but Tamara frames nicely where the question's coming from. So thank you, Tamara, for that. I am struck by the duality or contradiction, both in the case of this Isaiah text having a dialogue with the 5 books, but also I'm reminded of the contradiction at the beginning of Yom Kippur service when we recite Kol Nidre. And I'm wondering, when was Kol Nidre incorporated into practice, and might there have been a similar strain of thought in incorporating that seemingly contradictory text into the text for Yom Kippur?
Tamara is vigorously nodding her head, so allow me to call on you to relieve the tension. Yes, Tamara.
Well, as far as I know, and I don't know that area, but it was a response to what happened to Jews at the time of Inquisition, when Jews were making vows to relinquish Judaism, and prayer like Kol Nidre makes it possible for you to continue to live as a Jew, even though you just made an oath that you would always reject Judaism. So I think that's where it's coming from.
Oh my God, who did that?
You know it better than I do.
But that is correct, but also so very important. And please remember, that doesn't stop those who oppose Judaism from using Kol Nidre as a proof that Jews are deceitful, cannot be trusted, will never keep their word. Okay?
Oh my God, people do that, Rabbi? I never heard of such a thing. It's horrible. I would never look at my people, my family, and y'all like that. If people
Okay.
think that way about us, wait, I love you, Rabbi
Okay.
Davids, but some things you learn, I'm learning here. I'm really learning because I don't associate with anti-Semitic
Okay,
people.
okay.
Bye,
Thank
dear,
you.
bye.
But that is such an important thing. Were Jews ever forced to make vows against their will so that they could survive? Of course, of course, of course, and of course, and Kol Nidre was the way out. It was a way. Remember, I said earlier about sacrifice. You have to live. You screw up. You do things that you didn't mean to, or you do things that you have to, but didn't want to do. And Kol Nidre plays that function, and it's a great lesson to learn. Steve.
I've often heard that explanation of Kol Nidre, and to me, it doesn't work for the text, because the text talks about promises you make that you fully intend to keep. Like, I'm going to be good. I'm going to honor Shabbat every week in the coming year, and you don't, and you're asking God to forgive the fact that despite your best efforts, you didn't live up to your vow. So that seems to me to be a very different, that's what I see in the words, and this explanation of the Inquisition, to me, doesn't fit that.
Well, you can't refer to historical relevance and when a text becomes enshrined as anything other than extremely important. And then again, you know that the Reform movement ghosted Kol Nidre from the original Reform prayer books, pulled it out, removed it. No, 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 no. It wasn't, Steve, because they think that people try to do good things or they make promises and don't keep it. It was a toxic text in their eyes. And can I tell you, just between you and me, Steve, and please don't even tell Donna, because, you know, she's doing the studying and it could be upsetting to her. The reason that Kol Nidre got back into the Reform prayer book is because the cantors demanded it. That's historically, that's truth.
Thank you, cantors.
Well, okay, send them a letter. Okay, but the cantors love Kol Nidre. They love it. And they should. It's gorgeous. And they didn't like the fact that just because it didn't make sense in the contemporary world, they wouldn't be allowed to sing it. So Kol Nidre outlasted that whole early generation of Reform Jews. We have to come to a stop. I want to give Larry a shot. And this, you know, what's the point of studying a Sedra that's all about sacrifice, right? Okay, Larry?
So I apologize because I didn't realize the time, and my question may not be able to be answered in 2 minutes, but I'm completely comfortable with the notion that we choose from the possibilities the things that make sense to us, but that doesn't give us a lot of guidance for making the really, really hard choices as to which to choose. And I think the Inquisition period is sort of the tough case that proves it. I mean, what led some Spanish and Portuguese Jews to become conversos and others to go to their death as Jews, other than their own individual gut instinct as to what was the right thing to do? I mean, where in the text were these folks guided to their decisions?
You all know we've been together for 100 years, and we are really a great group of people. We know the answer to that. Why am I happy? Because I know the answer. Okay, you asked a question which I can answer, and I'm grateful. Do you know, Larry, that when these things were going on, and some Jews after the Inquisition or during or following or the Inquisition, and then with the also with the Crusades, some Jews made decisions, for example, to kill themselves and their children rather than have them become subject to whatever, right? Christian law, whatever. And the rabbis of the time vigorously and angrily debated with each other whether this was appropriate or not. There's a statement in the Talmud which says, if you want to know what the law is, go watch the people. Okay? And that makes a lot of sense. Go watch the people. In this particular case, following these horrible circumstances, people were doing what in our eyes would appear to be horrible things. And the rabbis didn't have the one answer. They fought with each other. And I will have to tell you that killing your children to survive the pressure of Inquisition or of Crusades didn't win out as a popular behavior. Okay?
I could never do that. I could never.
Totally right on picking up on that. Totally right. And there was no rule because nothing needed to be ruled before then. Nothing needed to be ruled. Then it needed to be ruled. And it was a vigorous debate. If you want to know more about this debate, read the book that Tamara and I are writing. And in about 2.5 years, that section is in there, Larry, which is why I sound so smart. That section is in there because it is a crucial question about how to deal with evil that is new in your world.
You're right, Rabbi. It's everywhere over here screaming about Jesus.
Larry, you get a preliminary book review credit for having raised that question.
Thanks.
No, thank
Glad
you.
to help.
My publisher thanks you. Well, thank you.
You may need to send that section in advance.
Okay.
I want a copy of that book.
Yeah, I'm happy to be a proofreader.
Yeah, well, you know, even more fancy, a reader of proof before the text is written. That's a very high status.
Well, let's have a dinner and do it. Let's all get together and read it.
Okay, now we're going to go to Kaddish. I've had a good time today. I hope that you have. What are you saying, Ray? Are you making something that Risa should read to me? What did you say? Ray said something.
I wrote Shkoach that you both retired so you can work more than ever.
Oh yeah, we're grateful. Thank you. Okay, we're going to go.
We love you.
With Kaddish. Those who have passed away during the past month: Jacob Furman, Arlene Gluck, Louis Gurin, Bito Kuchuklavi, Joseph Lowenstein, Joseph Mulliam, Robert Bob Newmark, and Saltzman Norman Shapiro, Alan Soroti, those the anniversaries of whose deaths have occurred during this past week: Max Ackerman, Jacqueline Bisharat Anvar, Dave Arcolio, Goldie Alter, Leonard Scott Barkin, Esther Bender, Dunya Berzowski, Eugene Bernstein, Anna Chinsky, Peter Cohen, Marvin Connie, William Avram Kopen, William DeRoven, Devorah Dissner, Sue Dorf, Arkady Adidovich, Hyman Eller, Norman Epstein, Harry Fagot, Jack Feldman, Raymond Feldman, Robin Feldman, Isaac Abraham Fogelman, Beth Fried, Bill Gilbert, Nicholas Glucken, Donna Golden, Fred Stanley Goldman, Mary Gordon, George Grant, Donald Greenberg, Martin Grover, Eleanor Haas, Theodore Hartstein, Judith Hahn, Betty Heisler, Regina Emarco, Pat Jacobson, Edwin Zygmunt Kahn, Joan Kamenow, Marilyn Keith, Diana Kin, Doug Klein, Robert Klein, Al Kleiner, Bell Lazarowitz, Dorothy Levin, Ida Lieberman, Gilbert Lindheim, Manette London, Susan Mahler, Yigal Makeover, Louis Mayers, Patrick John McCormack, Hugo Melvoin, Dorothy Miller, Jacob, Judith Miller, Ralph Miller, Hal Minter, Rosanna Michelle, Joseph Natker, Mort Joseph Natker, Edith Newman, Millie Newman, George Pollock, Jerry Price, Morton Pullman, Calvin Rabineau, Louis Reisman, Max Renov, Bernard Roth. I didn't have it written down, but a friend and a colleague, Harry Roth, died this week, and I'm just putting that name in. Dina Rothenberg, Dorothy Rothman, Marshall Sapphire, Claire Sathnick, Walter Salter, Sarah Shermer, Shirley Schwartz, Leah Siegel, Jack Silberkleit, Morris Silverstein, Wally Sloan, Herbert Sokol, Ruby Gantz Springle, Walter Stern, Dina Taslet, Stanley Wallens, Richard Weissman, David Wolf, Libby Wolf, Milton Wolf, Russell Wyckoff. We bear in mind as well the names of all those who died in defense of the United States, those who died in defense of the state of Israel, those who died through senseless acts of terror and of horror, those for whom there is no one left to say Kaddish. We include them all. If you have other names that you would like to speak aloud or in your hearts, please do so now.
Harry Roth.
Sarah Yafet.
Thank you. Thank you. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah v'alma divra v'amlich malchutei v'chayechon v'chayechol beit Yisrael ba'agala v'zkari v'imru amen. Yehi shmei Rabba v'varach le'olam le'omei omaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitbar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal. Shmei dekudisha brichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushachata v'nechamata Da'amiran bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlomo Rabba v'chayim aleinu v'al Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav hu ya'aseh
Shalom.
aleinu v'al kol Yisrael
Amen. Amen.
May God, who makes peace in the high places, make peace in our hearts, make peace in our homes, make peace in the household of Israel, make peace among all the families and nations of earth. And let us say,
Amen. I'm moving, everybody.
Shabbat
Shalom. I'm moving to a new home. Bye.
Thank you.
Shabbat shalom. Thank
Have a
you.
wonderful week. Bye.
Shabbat shalom. Thank you.
Thank you. It was wonderful as always.
Thank you, Rabbi. We love you. Bye.
Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
I'm moving to a new home. Moving to a new home. I'm getting Rabbi Leah to put some mezuzah up there. See ya. Bye. On my doorpost, a mezuzah. La da 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 dee da, da 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 da. Tikva Bye bye.